ultimately ultimately what happens is you should make use of some way, rather, like if I open this code, okay, and if I say, can you generate same code in C language? So if you see, this is the standard practice used by us. Like when you write the thing, the function names, though it is taking like this, because everyone may not go by, like everyone is not Mehmood that he or she will purchase the paid version, correct? We mostly would be dependent on or relying upon what? The free version, and free version would be showing this thing to me. If you see the coding style, these short forms generally are not followed the way that we write even these brackets and so on. Correct. Now, if you see, suppose this code is taking, say, 20 pages. Okay, though this is a very small code, but let us imagine that the code is written and it is going beyond 20 pages. And there's a variable used, say, for example, numbers. Now, how will you rectify what is the type of this number? So here in this case, it is saying double, means kind of integer. Correct. So it would be difficult for us to remember the type. So what they do is they do add this. Like for example, just keep in mind that the prefix I stands for integer, HZ stands for string terminated with zero, and so on. So that's how they started writing the numbers. Like if I say, sorry, for example, this H inst, correct. So these are the prefixes that they were expecting to be used at some point of time, rather. How exactly you should name the variable. Correct. This H probably, like kind of starting characters with every variable name will let us know what is the type of a variable. And that's what, like, generally what we do call about project management. Some kind of standard definitely would be thrown. Correct. Like earlier, if you go through this book, rather, you may or may not be a programmer, but let me tell you, to display only simple window like this, for example, if you see this notepad window, if I open this window, and if I say don't have these menu options, I have only title, and this title, suppose, is in the center here. Okay, there is minimize, maximum, close button, no scroll bar. To write, get only this kind of window, we used to write nearly 50 plus lines code to display this in Borland C++. Now, what happened? Like when Windows as in a programming language come and supported the environment through the IDE, Integrated Development Environment, with Visual Basic and so on, we simply gave call to one function, say MSG box, for example, okay, which is a API call, and then it used to display a message box for us. Even if I have to display, say, for example, if I go here and if I click on Save As, this was a dialog box shown. How this dialog box should be shown? So to get this dialog box, we used to write nearly 180 line code to display this dialog box only. But further, by giving call to only one function, which will display this save as dialog box, only one line was required. And like this is the whole journey. Like I suggest, maybe as an what you can say, the way that you read the novel, don't go with the technical terms that are probably explained here, but you go and read this book. It is a really good one. You can read this too. Like this is one of the best book, and this was the person who was, the one, Charles Petzold was the one who was part of that team, and he explained most of these things. It's just for fun perspective. You please go through this book, and it will let you know how exactly they worked around to get the kind of windows in front of you. The windows that we see, correct? So maybe like these tools would be definitely helping out. Now, if I say, for example, can you give me a plan to write the code above? Right. Now, if I write this, now definitely prompt would be much more important. Now see, here is a step-by-step plan. Okay. Can you also write, give me a report explaining this problem. Now, this kind of text that you will require to submit, say, for example, assignment perspective, this is the one of the best tool that you can make use of. And these kind of tools, generally, the way that it is doing now this. Now, though this is AI generated code, okay, what are the code that is generated through the generative AI? Okay, earlier, what used to happen, like for example, there were tools, like for example, if I go with say for say Word, okay, and if I write here, my name is Nitin Patil. Say for example, if I take bold, okay, I take these three as underline, these three as italics. Okay, let us change the font. Okay, this I don't, I want in color say red. This I want like this. Okay, this I want like this. Correct. Now, if I save this, save as, you go to wherever you wish to save. Say, for example, let us save it here, desktop. And if I go here and if I write, let us see HTML web page filtered, correct? I'm choosing web page filtered as an option. And suppose if I write here one.html. Okay. So I saved this. Now what you are saying, this code, it completely changed. It is not a document now, it is a template of HTML page. Correct. Now let me go and say open the code using Notepad. One.html. This was the page. Correct. So let me open this page now with say Notepad. We'll take here another operation. And if I open this. Now see, you will see that the way that we typed the code, correct? Rather, we haven't typed any code, correct? We wrote only the text in the Word document like this, correct? My N is there, then my name is Nitin Patil. I use different things, but if you see, the code is automatically taken. So let us see here, my, then superscript, color red, N was there, then span tile, AIM, AME, then Nitin was bold, correct? PAT was underline, and then this IL is italic. Now see, this code was automatically generated by the tool. Correct. What I did was I simply used the screen and I saved it as HTML and then it generated what I refer as the code. And this was the kind of code generators concept that was earlier. Now this current thing, which is used in majority industry parts, generating the code. I read somewhere like industry is thinking towards this. They are saying we will not recruit programmers now. What we will do is we'll write 70% of code from the generative AI tools. Now, to manage that code, we'll recruit only 30% people in the industry from the group of programmers. Now, think of this, how the world is changing from time to time. Correct. And like that would be one aspect that we definitely wish to see, like how exactly it is going to hamper the whole implementation and so on, or how exactly it is going to be beneficial for the industry to work around. So, as an a course perspective, like the one that we are referring to. So, let me go to Campus Moodle. So, I have added this course from which you joined. Correct. From the course perspective, like I will add over here, we are going to see multiple things. Like generally, the contents those are added here, like from the perspectives of what you can call it as teaching this course. There are different things. Like when we see a system project management as on a title perspective, now this title refers to the process of managing a project, which includes development, implementation, maintenance. Now, though I might be talking about a computing sense, ultimately you apply it in either of the project. Say, for example, it could be your own domain where you can apply. Instead of development, that would be planning there. Correct? So, like when we do talk about particular computer systems. Ultimately, this is the term mostly used in terms of software project management. Now, this would be essential when you want to talk about software, setting up software systems, designing IT infrastructure, correct? Or designing hardware and software integrated systems together ultimately. So there could be multiple such things that may be part of what one can call as system project management. Now, when we use project management, it is one of the essential thing so as to ensure that the projects are completed on time. Because I assume most of you probably working on projects, and definitely you must have seen that there are always deadlines included. Now, these deadlines should be always important in some sense, correct? And like when we say that the deadline should be followed, but ultimately we have to think or talk or address the scope. We have to talk about the budgetary provisions, and we have to also talk about the quality standards applied. Now, with assumption that say Mahmood in his team, there are 6 people who are writing the code. Now, one of the programmer among them, who is the team leader, say for example Mahmood, is supposed to check whether the code submitted is following the coding standards or not. But those standards might be designed or defined by his own organization or by him probably as a team leader. So here, the management process is not limited only to software, but it we are talking about in a broader scope. It may involve peoples, it may involve hardware, it may include processes that would be applied, and it also may consider the resources. So these are the 4 pillars. Okay, so I will group hardware, software together: peoples, processes, and resources. These would be the 4 pillars of system project management. Now, when we do say like we will start by addressing what is system project management. Like from next week, when we start actually the detailed aspects with respect to topic on topic. Right. So at that time, we'll try to address the what you can call it as how this system project management helps us in coordinating the project components. Now, when I say project components, as I stated earlier, the pillars: people's, process, hardware, and technology, or people, process, resources, and hardware or software. Depends. Like these would be always mandatory for us so as to address the requirements given by the user. Okay, now probably most of you are working for customers, clients, and those customers or clients must have specified what are their mandatory requirements, and you are going to work around those requirements prospectively. Correct. Now, what would be the focus areas to address this? We are going to manage technical and managerial aspects. Now, how? That would be one important part that we are going to learn in the first initial part of system project management. Further, we have to see that what are the goals that are set by organization. We have to see that our project should align with those goals. We have to ensure that the project is feasible and meets the needs provided by your client or a customer. Further, we have to talk or address the scope as well. We have to address the time parameter as well. We have to address cost parameter as well. Further, we have to address quality as well. Now, to achieve these goals, what we'll require is we will require planning. And I hope most of you are doing that part as in a project management perspective. Though your domain areas are different, but each stage you are applying maybe with knowledge or without knowledge of the technical terminologies. But you exactly know how to solve the problem, you start solving the problem. Correct. So we will require why do we want to implement the system? So first of all, we will require to know what is the scope and objectives of the systems. What is the system that we have to work with? Now this will involve what? You will start with gathering requirements, analyze needs of the user, determine what the system should achieve as a goal perspective. Then you have to address when we are going to work on the problem as a project, we have to divide that project into smaller parts, which are called as manageable tasks. Now, these manageable tasks will help us to assign the responsibilities. So we have to address work breakdown structure, and most of you are doing that. Correct. Further, we have to talk about risk, which is one of the important aspect with respect to plan. Identifying the potential risk that may be technical, that may be operational, that may be financial. It could be either of them. Then we have to talk about the schedule because time constraint would be definitely there. How exactly we are going to schedule it? So in such cases, what can be done is you definitely can work with, say, PERT as a technique, program evaluation and review technique. So you define this kind of graphs rather. So they will give us, like when you divide your project into activities, correct? For example, if you divide your project into activities like this would be your start, this would be your end, correct? But ultimately, what you are doing there is you are going to check when I reach to this goal, okay, at what stage I would be. You are going to define the dependencies and so on. So this PERT mechanism you are going to make use of rather to prepare the schedule so that you can exactly get the idea. So we are going to see that part too. We have to allocate resources, how your team would be there, how your team would be divided to work with all these different components of the project. Again, one of the important things. Further, we have to talk about how exactly we are going to execute the project, and we will how exactly we are going to control the execution phases. So this will involve implementation of each of these pointers, goals. There would be requirement of quality assurance and control, and we have to talk about project monitoring. Somebody should monitor whether everything is going on well or not. You must have seen generally when you start, probably in this first semester or maybe in every semester, you must have seen the course starts and then in between a review of that course is taken by maybe authorities, how the course is going, whether are you satisfied and so on. So that is what like project monitoring is. Now, when you identify that it is not working well, then you have to talk about mitigating the problems that are coming up as a risk perspective. So in such cases, there would be evaluations through the critical path method. Like you can see this name added CPM, critical path method or earned value management method to control the scope, to compute, to work out the project monitoring. Then like further, like when it is done, ultimately we have to give the cost. Like if at all I am given the responsibility to design one system, how the costing would be done? How exactly you will ask customer or client, okay, we will require this much amount of money if you want us to implement the thing. Now there could be probably different techniques that may be involved. Like for example, if I type here cost estimation techniques. So, like let me pick this indeed. There are multiple tools provided. Like how exactly you are going to do this, right? So let us say, yeah, whether are you going to make use of which methods? So if you see, there are 11 methods that are described here. I randomly picked the result that was shown. But here it is not only randomly going and picking one of the method. One approach probably could be expert judgment, relying on experts' knowledge and experience. The team members' knowledge and experience would be helpful in some cases. Further, there would be kind of you may go with parametric, which we like, which I said there could be a parametric. Okay, you try to find out how whether you want to compute how much lines the programmers are writing, how much workload that would be there for the team to work out the things. Correct? Or that could be like that could be either a top down approach or a bottom up approach, top down estimation or bottom up estimation. And this would be useful for us depending upon the cost estimation. We can prepare the budget. Now you must have seen, how do you decide to recruit peoples in your group? Can somebody tell me How you decide to recruit people in your group to carry out the tasks? Yeah, one of you can unmute and tell. Yes, Philip.
Sir, recruiting people basically based on the skill set and based on the experience what they hold in that specific domain.
But how do you compute how many peoples to recruit for?
Depends on the workload. Like if for example, like a project, it's a medium sized project. Accordingly, we see like for developers, how many developers are actually required to finish this in a given period of time. Say for example, 6 months. How many? If we need to scale up the number of developers, probably we will have to hire or do go for an outsourcing model,
Mm.
or else we look for in-house development. So
Okay.
based on that, the management takes a call.
So ultimately, there would be decision tree, correct?
There
There
will
would
be
be
a decision
decision
tree. Yeah.
makers, correct? There would be decision maker who will take a call whether to design our own system in-house or whether we should have a contract. Am I
Correct.
right? Correct. So I assume most of you would be having similar kind of scenarios at your end too. Maybe it would be related to raw material that would be used at your end or something similar to like that. Am I right? Okay. Further, yeah, Hanif, you were saying something?
No, no, sir. Yes, I told yes, correct.
Okay, Chandra, Mahmood.
Yes, sir, fine, that's fine.
One important aspect here, like when we said that we are going to look towards the workforce required and so on to get the count exactly. Now, there was one famous terminology used. Okay, let me see if I can get it. Okay, I will stop for a while screen sharing for a minute. Let me search it and then I will probably pass on to you. Yeah, I got it. So let me add that. This was one of the I don't recall exactly name of the book that time, but like, can you see screen? Yeah, if you read this, okay, Brooks points out this limited divisibility with another example. While it takes one woman 9 months to make one baby, nine women can't make a baby in 1 month. And this was the reality. Correct. There was one book the earlier for software engineering referred that it was containing this text. While it takes one woman 9 months to take one baby, 9 women can't make a baby in 1 month. And this was really an important thing, brother. Why? Because like what happens, like even if you recall the first lecture we heard about or we conducted about that system dynamics, you may recall like two peoples are like digging the road, digging the hole. Okay, you may recall that example. You cannot assure what will happen if you add the peoples. Correct. Now, suppose you saw that you are behind the schedule. What do you do? Do you keep adding peoples? Can it solve the problem?
Sir, it depends upon the situation. It may or may not solve the problem.
So like when we say it depends on situation, probability is 50-50, 0.5, 0.5. Am I
Hmm.
right? Now, how are you going to assure your team, team management that you would be successful? in such scenarios. This is like a gamble. Am I right? Now, when to play gamble and when to stop. So we should always have a better options available. And that's what we will be learning in next phase of project management called as risk management. Okay, identify the risk. Like for example, like when we started, Chandra was asking me, how many lectures do you think you will require to finish the course? Am I right, Chandra? Then I
Yes,
said,
sir.
okay, I would be requiring this many. Now, think of this. On what basis I probably came up with that number? We know that those many weeks we will never get. Correct? 16 weeks. Say, for example, do you think we will get 16 weeks? Definitely not. Then how exactly we are going to manage this, if at all it is to be taken that way? How do you think? What do you think? How should we manage this? Now, when Manish sir talked with me, let me give you an example. He said, okay, now earlier, previously, 1 year back, when you started MIS, you started in month of May, and I gave you in series maybe 10, 12 lectures, 12, 10, 12 days. Now you are getting the complete semester. Correct. Now you have to manage your course. Then I thought, okay, I would be getting February, March, April, May. So 4 months I thought. So that solved my problem. But ultimately after, sir, there is a one thing. There is a off in between in the month of March. Then suddenly my count came to 3 months. And even from 3 months, we already, I think we are already behind, right? As pointed out by Chandra earlier. One lecture already we are behind, rather two. Am I right? Now think of this. Now I have to manage. What happens accidentally? Suppose my 3, 4 classes get cancelled. What would be solution? What would be remedy for us in such scenarios? Correct. So we have to definitely, I rather as a team TL for this, as a teacher for this, as a team leader for this problem assignment, I need to have my plan clearly in my mind. I may or may not communicate you how exactly we are going to do that, but I would be asking you, okay, can we do this? Can we do that? Now, when needed, I will have to talk with your management too, your college too, correct? Your authorities too. Can you give me some more options instead of only one? Correct. So now think of this, how exactly we are going to solve this problem. And that's what is called as risk management. And like, when you say risk management, what we are doing here
Sir, but
now,
these things are part of a planning basically.
correct. But there's a risk
But
involved. You don't
yeah,
know.
and yeah, and
Yeah,
then there was some activity or we are identifying which may be a risk activity.
correct. So
So
that's what.
basically, this is risk forecasting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
forecasting, risk identification.
Yes.
Now, though you identified a risk, you identified an event, or you identified a task, correct? Let us say.
Mhm.
Can you guarantee that it will happen?
Again, that is
May
Correct?
or may not.
May or may not. Now
yeah.
we have to define whether if it happens, then what? If it doesn't happen, then what? If it is not, we are not sure. Some partly it will happen, partly it will not. Now, suppose, say, for example, my class is going on, suddenly power goes off. What is the option in front of me? Nothing. I cannot do anything. Am I right? Correct. Now, you cannot predict everything. And prediction is prior, actually, your before your project starts.
Yes.
And that's where we have to carry out analysis, risk analysis. So there would be kind of chart, different options are there. Like, because see, when money is involved, ultimately you have to come up with all these
Yes.
ideas, how exactly you are going to come out of those issues. And that's where comes something called as risk mitigation strategies. What is the
Can I add something,
likelihood?
sir?
Yes, please
Here,
go on. Go on.
that's why there is something called backup plan, disaster recovery. These are all part in case if there is any risk activity.
Correct. That's what I was about to talk. Risk mitigation
Mhm.
strategies. So what is the likelihood or impact of that risk? If it happens, then what you are going to do? Say developing backup plans, acquiring additional resources. Correct? These would be the choices in front of you. You cannot go beyond them. Correct? But now, as we have pointed out, okay, this may happen. Now, in 2012, you may recall what was told to us before 2012. There will be a big disaster on earth. Am I right? So everybody was thinking, what happens? What if it happens? How exactly we are going to make sure that we are safe? Probably when we saw the movie, ultimately everyone was talking about that part only. Those probably who are not reading or knowing the news, only they saw the movie and they started predicting. For for them, movie is the reality. They don't care really whether it is going to happen or not, but they assumed that it is going to happen, and they started doing all kinds of controls. They started monitoring, okay, what happens on this day, what happens on that day. Every time they are going to really monitor it, and they will try to control that risk. And that's what is called as the complete plan of risk management. Now, what would be involved here to do all these things? What are the earlier stages that we talked about, and now came to risk aspect rather. We have to always see that there would be a proper communication and stakeholder management. Now, when I say stakeholders, who are the stakeholders in the project? Your client, your users, your team members, your management. Now, everyone's understanding should be on same page. What is assumption of an individual member about the system that we are going to work around? Do they have their own interests? Do they have their own concerns? And is our idea is going to solve the problem? So what are the plan that we are going to come up with? We have to discuss it with the stakeholders. And we have to always consider their expectations. Now, it's not only like somebody says that you have to follow this, blindly don't follow it. You are required to go through some analysis, and that's where comes quality assurance. And there could be multiple ways of assuring the quality. In software perspective, you may have unit testing, integration testing, all sorts of testings related to your code. But it's not only about the software. It could be some other thing too. Now, on what basis you take a call, what kind of CPU you should purchase? Suppose if you are purchasing Core i3, Intel's Core i3, why you wanted Core i3? Why not Core i5? Then suddenly you start talking about, so I have budgetary issues. That's why I'm planning about Core i3. Now management says, no, don't worry about budget. You have to concentrate on the performance. Correct. Now your earlier parameter was cost. Now you started talking about performance. Probably after some time you will see that your parameter is changing from performance to some other thing. What is the throughput? How many jobs can be completed within time frame, and so on. So there would be some standard parameters that would be set for every product, and that's what this quality assurance means. Further, and the last important aspect is related to change management or configuration management. Suppose you came up with your software. Let us take an example. Can you assure that there would not be any change in the request? You started building the software, and suddenly somebody says, no, we don't want this, implement differently. This can become a disaster. And if it becomes a disaster, ultimately it may lead to a setback for your organization. So for that purpose, we have to see whether every change should be accepted or not. How exactly it is going to make the impact on the configuration. And when everything is quite right, the last stage is system project closure. What you are going to deliver as a project management perspective. Whether are you going to provide final report, how exactly you are going to handing over the complete project to the organization, to the stakeholders. Correct. And after even it is delivered, it is submitted, handed over, you have to always carry out post implementation reviews too. Now, if I have to address all these things, there can be multiple tools that may be required. For example, project management tools. Microsoft's project, Microsoft Project is one of the best, probably the software. Let me show you. Let me see if I can open it. Hopefully, I'll be able to. But let me tell you, our contract is not renewed. But let me see if I can. Yeah. So if I go to apps, if I go to project management, this was the software that I was referring to, Microsoft Project. And some of you probably must be using this, correct? I don't know whether it is. Uh, Let us see. Right. It may not be part of our bundle, but if it is there, let us see. It is not permitting me, correct? Right now. But you will see that like we'll try to see if we can use this. Okay, this was one of the tool, project management tool. Now, if you don't have, ultimately you can go with, say, for example, I do recall Jira, I think. This is again the proprietary software, okay, which permits you the similar thing, the way Microsoft Project permits. Okay, then there can be, I think, Trello. Trello was something. This is again the paid version. Okay, these are the tools like you can make use of. I will try to show and add maybe some free softwares. Let us see like if we can get them. Then like apart from these project management tools, what you can do is you can make use of, say, some risk management tools too. Now, what are the risk management tools? Say, for example, Carlos. Okay, so this is the tool, a Monte Carlo tool can be used. So there is again, I think, risk register, कुछ नाम था. Okay. Risk register in project management. Yeah, Asana. Yeah, this Asana is one of the, again, a tool used for project management, Asana, ASANA. Right. So this is again one of the tools that you can make use of. Okay, there are some templates you can definitely use to prepare these risk management tools and project management software. Now, other thing can be like with respect to controlling the versions. Like for every operating system, for every software, you do see that there are versions. So there can be some version control systems too. Say, for example, Git. Correct. This Git can be used to store like when you want a distributed access of the code. Like suppose one code is there and we 10 people are there sitting at different locations, has to manage a same code, then ultimately they can make use of this kind of version control system, Git. Right. There can be, I think, SVN भी होता है कुछ, SVN repository. Okay, this is again, sorry, I opened wrong. I think this is the one. So this is SVN tool that you can make use of. So this is one of the things. So I think there is one another tool, Mercury or something like that. Okay, let me check. Mercurial. Yeah, source control management, version control management system, Mercury. This may be like free one. So source code management, SCM, correct? So this was the tool, like they are the commands that are given. So you can control the code if you don't want to make use of Git. And there can be tools like Zoom, Slack, Microsoft Teams, correct? Or Google Teams and so on. They would be your communication tools to collaborate with the team in a distributed mode. Okay, so this is the brief idea of what you can call it as a course perspective. Okay, where we are going to address most of these things rather at our end. So, like from syllabus perspective, I think campus. Yeah, this was the kind of thing that is applicable. But though it is talking mainly about IT perspective, I would be going on be more details about systems idea. Right? So how do we making this available to you peoples? Okay, so it is addressing everything that I addressed today with respect to the topic perspective. Right? So this would be our syllabi, and like if you want to make use of books, rather you can see these books. So I can make it. Say for example, don't hide. You can see this, okay, at your end, and make sure that like you have seen these contents. So we are going to address these contents in this whole semester. So from the starting perspective, next session that we will be starting from Monday onwards, it will be addressing what exactly software project management is, correct? And then we'll go beyond some aspects with respect to say its definition, what are the focus areas, how exactly you do carry planning, okay, execution control, everything you are going to address, we are going to address over here, correct? So let us see like how it goes, and we'll work out accordingly whenever needed. I will refer you some recorded videos as well, like okay, for uh, the software engineering course that I taught here in the department. Hopefully, what I started was, yeah. Yeah, so I will try to see like if I can make these tools available, sorry, these PPTs available to you. These are the videos recorded in 2021-22 during the COVID. So you can use these videos. I will try to share most of these videos with you all so that like even if we may not address everything here, okay, but this would be good rather to really read about it, what exactly happens there. Correct? Okay. Yeah, any question? So we have to take few one or two tests here that would be basically addressing what would be your decision in that respect of implementation perspective related to the project. And like I expect that you should come up with a report as an a project report perspective for the regular project that you are working. Try to see that you address these all things. I'm not sure what is maybe you can say thematic view of the report is, but I will expect that you should come up with something with respect to a new initiative that is to be applied in your company. How exactly you will go applying this project management perspectives. It could be a startup for you. It could be your work domain as well. Okay, so we'll keep some marks for it. Some activities would be there. From next class. There would be some quiz that would be added at the same time when the class is, so that you can answer that, and then we will use that as an evaluation perspective. Okay, so I may not ask every time like a question. Then I'm not going to ask opinion of each one of you at every point of time. So that a question may be thrown to you, and you have to answer that question. Correct? So we'll try to use this continuous evaluation method rather on this front to address these parameters. Okay, any question? So I added that here. Any question, please?